Yesterday we started talking about the classes in Realm Royale, specifically the warrior and the assassin. Today we'll be talking about what the best class in Realm Royale is for you, part 2, and talk about the other 3 classes that are left. As always, a quick mention before we go into the video: if you would like to try out Realm Royale right away, it is free to play, available on Steam right now, and the link is down below. And with that, right into the classes. The next class on the list is the Hunter. The Hunter is very much what the name says. She has trapping abilities, she has tracking abilities, she has long range damage, and she overall fits in a similar category as the Assassin, though there are obvious differences that make her her own class. Basically, the Hunter is best for you if you enjoy long range combat and tricking your enemies, but aren't willing to fully commit into the sniper playstyle. The Hunter's ability is a dodge roll, a quick roll in whichever direction you're choosing. This ability has a very short cooldown. It starts at 5 seconds and goes down to 2 seconds at legendary rank, so you can spam it pretty much. And this frequent use means you can frequently reposition yourself or trick enemies in an extended fight. The abilities that can be looted from the ground are as follows. Blast Shot is a long-range projectile that just goes straight at the enemies and deals damage. Very straightforward, and the damage goes up and the cooldown goes lower with higher ranks. Flare is a reveal ability, though it's a little bit different from the Assassin's Sensor Drone. Instead of revealing enemies through walls, this ability reveals enemies that are getting too close to the flare. You don't have to be hit by the flare, but you have to be in an area where the flare basically sees you or you see the flare. So for example, if you're outside a building and you throw the flare outside the building, you will not reveal somebody in the building. But if you throw the flare into the building, then you will reveal enemies inside the building unless they're behind a wall. But this ability does also do 300 damage if you hit someone directly, and it also goes down in cooldown with ranking it up. The next ability is Proximity Mine, which is basically what the name says. It's a mine that you put down, and when an enemy comes too close, it explodes. Ranking it up will decrease the cooldown and increase the damage of the mine. The last ability is Withdraw. Withdraw is a short backwards dash that also gives you stealth afterwards. Stealth duration depends on the rank, and so does the cooldown. Much like the dodge roll, this is usually used to avoid enemy attacks and basically disorient them and setting up a shot for yourself. The passive of the Hunter is 10% weapon swap speed and 10% reload speed, very straightforward. The legendary weapon of the Hunter is the longbow. This weapon deals a relatively high amount of damage, but it has a little bit of a wind-up. You have to draw the arrow back first before you can shoot the projectile. So for quick close combat it's not as useful, whereas at longer ranges it's much better and allows for very efficient peeking, shooting out arrows and then going back behind your wall. With around 900 damage is also nothing to scoff at. If that's absolutely not your playstyle, then the Engineer might be for you. The Engineer has an interesting mix of abilities that allow for a lot of area control and area damage, while also being a little bit of a support depending on which abilities he gets. The Engineer's mobility is Thrust. This is arguably the worst mobility, though it can work well in tandem with his legendary weapon. This ability is basically just a leap straight into the sky. You jump very, very high, which also makes you an easy target, and you have a decent amount of air control, so you can kind of control where you land from there. Though it's by far not as efficient at getting you forward as, for example, a warrior leap would be. It's also the only mobility that doesn't allow you to get 2 items quicker or move around quicker in general, so that's an obvious downside right there. However, the Engineer makes up for that with very strong other abilities. His first ability is Barricade. Barricade is a shield that gets put up in front of the Engineer that he can shoot through and allies can shoot through, but enemies can't. The Barricade as of this patch has 3000 health and a duration between 3 and 6 seconds depending on the rank. With ranking it up, the cooldown also gets lower. The next ability is Deploy Turret. This simply puts down a turret that will then shoot enemies. This has a relatively long cooldown at the start of 20 seconds, but goes down to 8 seconds. There's not much to say about it really, it's just a turret that shoots anyone who comes too close, and obviously it has health as well, so it can be destroyed. The third ability is Firebomb. Firebomb is an AoE damaging ability that you throw on the ground and then that area will light on fire. This will do percentage health damage to the enemies between 9 and 18% and has a 16-second cooldown at lowest rank, but 10 second at the highest. So you can use it quite often for a significant chunk of extra damage and also to get enemies out of areas you don't want them to be in. His last ability is Healing Totem, a totem that heals. Between 40 and 160 health per tick with a 12-second cooldown across all ranks. This ability also heals allies. The Engineer's passive is gain 5 armor per second, so along with the Warrior he has some sustain that just passively ticks all the time. The Engineer's legendary weapon is the Plasma Launcher, a launcher that deals AoE damage in a small radius, but deals more damage if you directly hit an enemy, up to 800, and it also has a little bit of a drop-off, so you can't just shoot straight. Last but not least, there is also the Mage. The Mage focuses on high damaging spells, has high mobility and high self-sustain. It overall falls a little bit between the other classes, though it's a relatively selfish class. The mobility of the Mage is Soar, an ability that allows them to fly around a little bit and also fly through windows. The flight is relatively quick, so it can often be used as an effective escape without getting hit. The first ability is Fireball. Fireball deals high amounts of damage, is a straight projectile on a relatively low cooldown that gets lower with higher ranks. This is your main damaging source, and if you get a higher rank of this, you usually want to take that. The next ability is Explosive Flask. Explosive Flask does low damage, 200 damage, has a similar short cooldown to Fireball, but it slows enemies instead. The problem is it has a major drop off, so it's kind of hard to land at a distance, and that makes it a little bit worse than it would otherwise be. The next ability is Ice Block. The Mage freezes herself, healing a decent amount of health, 300 to 600, with a damage immunity during being frozen, and then can unfreeze herself at any point and start attacking again. This also can be used to reset your other cooldowns as they still tick down while you're frozen. The ability itself also goes down a cooldown when ranking it up. The last ability is Wall. It's literally just a wall you can put up. You can't see through the wall, you can't shoot through the wall, the enemies can't shoot through the wall, and no one can walk through the wall. I don't know why you would want that, but it's there. The Mage's passive is gain 30% extra potion effectiveness, and the Mage's weapon is the Stone Spear that fires 3 quick projectiles for up to around 825 damage. The projectile speed is quite fast and the range and accuracy is relatively long, so you can shoot straight at long ranges with this as well. That's it for the classes. I hope at this point you found one that is appealing to you. Again, if you'd like to check out Realm Royale, you can check it out right down below. You can find the link there. My name is DukeSloth, and I thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.